Atala Shabazz and Yolanda King, daughters of Malcolm and Martin, became friends and developed plays for Black youth about self-esteem. They each continued in their own way the civil rights struggles their fathers began. Yolanda collapsed during a meeting with her brother in 2007 and would soon after die. Atala continues to lecture and speak out on behalf of human rights. The following is an edited version of an interview with the two women, published on November 30th, 1989, by Rolling Stone magazine.
As a grand nationalist, as Malcolm X was, he was an even grander parent. He was big fun. And while I understand that he was a commanding sort of man, he was 6'5", hard not to command attention. He was a gentle giant. So while his words may have seemed direct, almost curt, his manner was humble and polite. He addressed everyone as sir or ma'am, even when they didn't share his views, even when they completely misunderstood and twisted what his views were.
Till I was about 8 or 9, I had no awareness he was anybody special. Everybody went to jail, right? Then one day, some kids at school called my daddy a jailbird, and it upset me. That was the beginning of my awareness. Well, there was at that time this amusement park in Atlanta called Funtown that was advertised on TV. And I was an amusement park freak. I loved all the scary, dangerous rides, and Daddy was my companion in that. I was dying to go to Funtown. But Black people couldn't go there. So Mother told me, Yoli, Daddy's going to jail, so we can all go to Funtown. So far as I was concerned from that point on, Daddy was doing good things. Except for the real early years, he missed just about every activity I was in. I wrote my first play when I was 8. It was about a queen, and I, of course, was the queen. Written, directed, and starring no other than Yolanda King.
The image that's always portrayed of Malcolm is of this angry Black man. Well, when you asked any Black American at that time, what do you feel about those 4 little girls who were bombed in Birmingham, you were liable to get a low brow. And understand this, I never heard my father blaspheme or badmouth white people. Never. Not that my parents candy-coated what was ugly. They didn't teach me about racism. That would come soon enough. What they did teach me was about my wonderful heritage. One of my coloring books when I was younger was called Color Me Brown, and it had 25 little etchings of Black American contributors that you could color in. So I knew about Benjamin Banneker, I knew about Phyllis Wheatley, I knew about Ira Aldridge, I knew about Ida B. Wells. Those were the names that came to my mouth, like Mary Poppins might to another's. My parents had a storybook romance. She didn't even wait for him to finish proposing before she said yes. They'd go off on long walks alone, and when he was traveling, he'd leave her treasure maps with love letters at the end.
I remember there was one real special time when I was around 10, and I wanted Daddy there so badly, and he wasn't, again. But this time he sent me a telegram, and I'll never forget what he said in that telegram. Just know that I love you, he said. And then he talked about my being born and how things had changed so since then in terms of the social climate. See, I was born 2 weeks before Rosa Parks wouldn't go to the back of the bus. The only thing I remember that ever worried me was one Sunday night. We had these extended family dinners on Sundays, and afterwards the adults would sit around talking, telling jokes. I loved listening, especially to Daddy, who was the funniest of all. He was a very witty man. People don't know that. Well, he was in rare form that night, one joke after another, and at some point during all this, Daddy said, "You know, I probably won't live to be 40. And then he laughed. I thought to myself, now that's not funny. That was about a year before he was taken. Unfortunately, though I've managed to block out so much other stuff, when it comes to Daddy's being taken, I remember everything in blow-by-blow detail. I was 12. Mother and I were going shopping, and I was looking forward to that. I went to her room for something, and the television was going, and a special bulletin came on. You know, when they interrupt the regular program? And before they even said who that bulletin was for, I knew.
Reporters, real reporters, sometimes ask me, do you advocate your father's philosophies of violence? Do you believe, as he did, that whites were created by a black mad scientist? That mad scientist stuff wasn't my father. That was Elijah's philosophy. There's so much focus on the narrowest part of my father's life, on the neon sign that was him, not the man himself. He wasn't just Malcolm X, black nationalist. He was Daddy. The night of the Molotov cocktail on Valentine's Day, 1965, our home was bombed. I almost didn't realize how dangerous it was. My eyes were burning, I was coughing, but before you knew it, Daddy had us all out of there, and we were safe at a friend's house.
I said, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to hear it, and I ran to my room and I kept saying, please don't let my daddy die. Please don't let my daddy die. Please don't let my daddy die. And I'd just seen him on TV only a little while before. It was the end of a speech he'd just done in Memphis. And I remember looking at him and thinking, his eyes. I was staring at his eyes because he didn't look like he was there. His eyes were someplace else. Given my belief that there is a divine purpose for my father's life on this planet, given the way I was raised, it's real hard to get angry. I get that from my daddy.
The day of the assassination was a week after the Molotov cocktail. We're all in the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. My father's on stage. I'm on the opposite side of the table from my mother. She has 4 children to care for, plus being pregnant with the twins. Bullets are shot. Pandemonium. She's telling me, get down, reaching her arms out to hold us all down on the ground. Simultaneously, she's yelling, that's my husband they're killing. I see the men. I see it. They start to beat one of the perpetrators. People are up on the stage saying, is he breathing?
Daddy's last hours. Do you know he was having a pillow fight? Yes, he was, with his brother Andy Young, and Jesse Jackson, and Ralph Abernathy. They were having a pillow fight in the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, like a bunch of 6-year-old boys. Yes, they were. And then Daddy brushed off the feathers. He put on his suit and tie, and, well, he moved on into eternity.
We moved from our old house to Westchester. We weren't in hiding or on the run like some articles have tried to make out. Our old house had been bombed. Then on April 4th, 1968, I came home from school and my house was paralyzed. The TV was on, and every time a bulletin interrupted, I watched my mother focus on it with such a passion. It was like it was happening again for her. She knew what Mrs. King was going through. So in meeting Yolanda, she wasn't so much a stranger because we have each other's history. We both know what it is to catch your breath when a bulletin interrupts on TV. We know what it is to sit through tributes. For Yolanda and I, April 4th, 1968 is February 21st, 1965. As we are different, we are the same.